What is up, everyone? It's Alfonso here, and we're back again with another push workout. For those of you following along, we're also on day 4 of 75 hard. So far, things are going really good. Honestly, it's been really nice, and I definitely have found myself being a lot more in a groove. I know I'm only technically 4 days in, but overall, like I said, the experience is going great so far. So today, we are going to take you guys through another push workout. I do know that we need to record legs, just because we haven't done that yet, but today push is on the agenda, but things are actually going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past before, so I'm actually pretty excited to take you guys through the workout. Can you imagine if I misspell something and someone calls me out on it? I also don't think I spelled incline correctly.
No, that's right.
It just looks weird. You ever spell a word and it just looks weird? It's also hot as hell in this warehouse. Alright, so we wrote the workout. Today, we're going to do more of a traditional, I wouldn't say traditional bodybuilding workout, but more of a traditional bodybuilding workout for myself. Personally, I've kind of gotten a little bit away from them, mostly because I honestly just got really bored of doing the same thing over and over again. But recently, especially I think with me starting 75 hard, I realized I need to get back more into that routine of following kind of a consistent training program. Not in the sense of me having to train on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, but whenever I am training the way that I know I should be. And honestly, this method of training that I kind of do is definitely a lot harder as well. And I think with me doing 75 hard, the intentions is to make things a little more difficult than needed, just because that way you can adapt and you can actually push yourself mentally. So today on the workout, we have side lateral raises, which are just with the cable. A lot of things are 2 sets of 6 to 10, 10 to 15. So the first set will be 6 to 10, the second set will be 10 to 15. Obviously that first set is a little bit heavier, and that second set you kind of back off the weight a little bit, go for a little more volume. Of course, you want to make sure the intensity is there as well as the weight. Then the second exercise will be an incline press, incline chest press to be exact. The third one will be a shoulder press. Fourth one, we'll go into a little more volume. We'll do dumbbell side lateral raises to hit those side delts again. And then machine flies, which will just technically be a cable fly because you don't have a actual machine here, but I'll kind of set up in a way to where it looks like that. And then we'll finish off with some tricep pushdowns, 3 sets of 8 to 15. But like I was saying, notice how the last technically 3 exercises, they had a little more volume, just because we're not necessarily trying to push a ton of weight, and we're actually trying to push a little more volume with them. So that is going to be the push workout for today, and we're going to go ahead, get warmed up, and get started. The first exercise, we're doing side lateral raises, and you'll notice that I'm doing it with the cuff instead of a handle. Obviously, you can do it with a handle, and honestly, I was kind of doing it with a handle for a little bit, but I kind of went back to the cuff. The cuff that I have is just from my hypertrophy coach. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of him, but he's a really good dude. But the biggest thing with side laterals, with the cuff, it's something a lot of people kind of prefer to do the dumbbells, but I definitely have gotten away from them. That's mostly because with the cuff, for some reason, the profile on it is just a lot better. I've kind of noticed whenever you do it with the cuff, your attention is always there. I think that's the biggest thing, and you really get to control the movement. So whenever you're doing it with a dumbbell, you're kind of in a free-for-all in a way, in the sense of when you're lifting the weight, the tension's the highest at the top, but when you come down, you definitely lose a lot of tension, and it's just hard to keep that. But whenever you use a cuff, the tension is always somewhat there, which I think is the biggest thing. And I would even say, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure the tension is the greatest whenever you're at the bottom. So whenever I have the weight actually pulled off, the tension here is the greatest. But if I was just using a dumbbell, it isn't necessarily there. And with these, a big thing whenever you're doing them is that obviously you're not, though your hand isn't necessarily right in front of you, it is off to the side where that tension is created. And then when you're dragging out, one thing you want to do, and something that I think of, is I imagine that there's a wall right here. And since there's a wall right here, my goal is to scrape my knuckles against that wall. It's not necessarily to punch it or anything like that. It is just to graze that wall right there. And I will say, I definitely stole that cue from my buddy Dane Chrislip, so shout out to him. But this is the first working set of the side lateral raises, so we're going to get to it. My shoulder's already shot after holding it for that long. Whenever people use their wrist wraps, they wrap them around their forearms, and that defeats the entire purpose. They're called wrist wraps. So like whenever you wrap it, you want to make sure it's like fully over your wrist. Obviously not so tight where like you lose circulation, but just tight enough. But notice how it is completely over my wrist and it's not on my forearm. You know, like these, I think sometimes, I know when I was younger, I definitely wore them because I thought they made me look cool. But as I've gotten older, my wrists, they don't necessarily bother me, but I just like to be as safe as possible, so that's why I wear them. But like I said, they're wrist wraps and not forearm wraps. It's just a small little note, goes a big ways. Whenever we're kind of doing like the top set, like the back off set, one general like rule of thumb, obviously it kind of applies on the scenario, but let's say like I did 100 pounds on the incline press. My second set, which is that back off set, and it's more like the 10 to 15 rep range, you want to cut the weight by somewhat, maybe around like 30%. Some people can do a little bit more, some people need to do a little less, just kind of depends, but 30% is a good general like rule of thumb, especially when you're kind of doing that top set, back off set type style training. So on the shoulder press, I just did 87.5 pounds for I think 7 or 8 reps. Don't exactly remember. I'm actually pretty beat after that set. And then our second set, we're going to do 57.5 pounds. Obviously, I don't think that's necessarily close to 30%, but the way these weights are kind of stacked, we're going to have to do what we can. But just a quick rule of thumb, just in case you're ever wondering what weight you needed to use and you're kind of confused, 30% is just kind of that rough number that you want to look for. So obviously now we're doing dumbbell side lateral raises, and then earlier we did the cable, like with the cuff side lateral raise. Just how I was explaining in the cable cuff, whenever you're doing them, the tension is honestly constantly there, especially when you're at the bottom. But when you're doing dumbbells, it's kind of hard to constantly keep that tension there, which is completely fine. Honestly, I'm just getting them in to get more volume and like intensity and movement on my side laterals, because those are, it's been pretty much been a big priority for me, is getting those bigger. But like I was explaining, whenever you're doing these, the tension isn't always there. You can definitely still hold it out here and it'll be there, but it's not as strong as it would be on the side lateral raise with the cuff, the cable essentially. So whenever you're doing these, my preferred method is kind of roll my shoulders forward. The only reason why is because, one, these dumbbells are extremely blocky, and so it's kind of hard to like hold them, and like the weight is very oddly distributed. Well, say if you're using a normal dumbbell, you can do it a little more like lean back with your shoulder blades back, but even with the regular dumbbell, my preference is to have my shoulder blades rolled forward. So I'm rolled forward right here, and then I'm just swinging to the side, and like I was explaining, the tension, it gets loose at the bottom, which is completely fine. We're just adding more volume to our delts. It's essentially what we're doing here. So I'm gonna get into the second set, and you guys will see what I mean. I think another thing as well, it's okay if you can't get the weight all the way up. I will say my shoulders are pretty burnt because we did those side lateral raises in the beginning, and then the shoulder press, and then straight into these, which, like I was saying, the main thing with this movement, we just want more volume in, so it's okay if we're not necessarily like getting the full complete rep. We still want to fall within our rep range before we start to somewhat fail, but partials are okay. So you find yourself doing partials, it's a good thing. Alright, so moving on to the next exercise, which is the cable flies. One thing that I do on these is like we don't have a machine, so I kind of have to like make one up. Personally, I don't like doing cable flies standing. That is mostly because you're not super stable in the movement. I feel like there's a lot of swinging, a lot of swaying, and honestly, whenever you're trying to do any type of exercise, the goal should be to be as stable as possible. Obviously, there's a time and place for certain movements, but overall, our main focus on this movement is our chest. So we just want to make sure that we are technically just moving our chest. So that's why you'll see my setup. I have obviously the two pulleys, the cables, and then of course the bench press. Another thing as well is a lot of people that get caught just like pressing. It's a cable fly. We're not necessarily trying to press. So you want to make sure you're focusing on getting that big stretch and then squeezing. Another thing as well is think about your biceps touching together. So notice how my elbows aren't awkwardly bent to where they're like this, because if you're doing this, you're not necessarily contracting your chest. You want to make sure that you're fully out and you're fully contracting. You can notice a big difference whenever I'm here with my chest, and then when I'm here, it's obviously a lot more contracted. So this is set one. We're going to get into it. just finished out that push workout. Pretty simple, pretty basic, relatively heavy with obviously some extra volume added towards it in there, which is really nice. Only took us about an hour and a half. So hopefully you guys took some value from that. Of course, like, comment, subscribe. We'll have 2 videos a week. Sunday and Thursday is the current game plan. So if you guys have any questions, comment them in the comment section below. Oh wait, I have one more thing to say. Don't get comfortable. Did I say that correctly? Did I say that right? Okay. Don't get comfortable. Just a quick little tip. Don't get comfortable. Life is a lot easier whenever you're pushing yourself and you're a little uncomfortable. And that is what we're currently doing. So hopefully you guys can take that and do whatever you want with it. So don't get comfortable. All right. Now bye.